So I have to admit, I don't really know too much of the process of, brewing beer. So where do you get the grains? Where do you get the wheat? I mean, I don't know if you want to, I'm sure you can spend an hour talking about it, but, nuts and bolts, how is the process started to where you actually can it?
I mean, my whole approach to brewing is definitely about fresh ingredients and consuming fresh beer. Like, you can make beer with kind of any ingredients if you want, but I think it's really important to discover what works for every brewery and what works for every brewer, and certainly for the consumer directly. From Valley Malt, which is one of our suppliers, our local supplier of malted barley grains, including other grains, including wheat, and rye, and sometimes corn. And I've gotten other like oats from them. They do roasted grains for us. So Andrea and Chris Stanley own Valley Malt. They're out of Hadley, Mass. And they're our local supplier. So we buy a lot of grain from them. I like to think that we're a pretty big customer of theirs. They're a big, big supplier of ours for sure. They happen to also be very good friends of mine. They also founded another thing with a group of people called the Northeast Grain Shed. The Northeast Grain Shed is basically a group of like-minded brewers, distillers, bakers, farmers, and maltsters and millers that all want to consider the local supply chain as a really important aspect of what we're doing every day. Especially now where things are with just trucking ingredients across the country and getting hops from the Pacific Northwest and from Europe. And why shouldn't I consider for a moment where these things are coming from and what that impact is? And we do every day. And in fact, I got 4,000 pounds of malted wheat from Valley Malt this week, and it'll all be gone it'll be put into beer over the next 2 to 3 weeks, and we'll get another couple pallets right before we run out. And it's really a big part of what we do. And we also get ingredients from other suppliers that I can highlight. Brewer Supply Group is our biggest supplier. We fill a silo of their 2-row as sort of our base grain. We also use a combination of other imported grains from maltsters like Simpson's out of the UK and Weyermann out of Bamberg, Germany, and various other grains that we just find to be the best fit for our products. They're exciting too, because the thing that's exciting for me is that we get to play with these things. These are our ingredients, and there's something to be said about having pride in those ingredients and using them to the best, for the best purpose of making these beers. We build our beers around ingredients and process, not the other way around. I didn't just say, I want to use that. I want to make this kind of beer. I don't know what kind of grain it should have, but I'll try this one. We were very focused on, these are the kind of grains we want to use. These are the types of beers we want to make. How do we get there? And that's something that my lead brewer, Dunstan, who's over there making a little noise, and our team here have developed that process together. And that kind of leads us more to talking about how we formulate our beers, but it's actually more about how we choose to deal with our supply chain and understanding like what it brings to our end. We use Weyermann pills in our Kolsch beer because it's the right grain to use. We use Warthog wheat from Tor Oshner from Oshner's farm in New York in all of our beers because it's the greatest wheat on earth. It's from our friends at Valley Malt, and it helps to solidify our goals, which is to keep our supply chain as close as possible and to improve upon the local supply chain by putting those ingredients into our beers.
Nice. Yeah, that's great that you're keeping everything local too, especially with everything going on right now. I think that's part of the reason why I wanted to even start this podcast, is just to promote local businesses, because I think small businesses in general, the impact that they can have on COVID. I don't want to spend too much time on COVID. I think it gets enough news in general, but how has it really affected you guys?
It has affected us. I mean, emotionally, of course. I mean, everybody's a little on edge. Everybody's a little, obviously, very concerned about our safety and our health and our families. And my family is quarantined, so me coming to work every day has been a big concern. My wife has actually worked from home for the last couple of years. We have a college-age daughter and a 10-year-old son. They're home. I mean, my daughter's left the house 3 times in 2 months, besides going on quick walks around the neighborhood. Thankfully, our business is operating, and we're very proud to continue to be able to make beer for people that are continuing to support us, which I have to say the support has been unbelievable. From people coming here for curbside pickup, and also supporting our retailers in the market, and coming in when they come here, they like buy beer online and they show up and we put it in their trunk of their car, and they've tipped our staff excessively well and been super gracious. And that part's been amazing. I think the hardest part is just considering our friends in the on-premise world and how they're being affected and how just devastating that is to that part of our industry. The fact that I'm not selling kegs right now is a bummer, but it's not nearly as much of a bummer for me as it is for my friend that owns a public house in Brookline, and he can't even sell a keg of beer right now. So, or there's 100 bars I can name off the top of my head that I care deeply about, not just for my business, but emotionally and personally. We're friends, we're colleagues as well. And it's been devastating. I mean, I'm seeing, Coda in the south end of Boston announced that last night that they're closing, and that's it's terrible. It's just kind of awful. There's 20-something people that won't have a job there, and more importantly, there's thousands of people that love eating there that no longer are going to get to have that experience. I will say that back to that support thing, like I do the same thing. Like I go to get pizza and I find myself tipping $10 on a $22 pizza order because it's not because I want to make them I feel obligated. I feel like, wow, everybody's kind of hurting right now. We're all taking a hit, but if we all kind of contribute and we all like kind of support each other and participate together. There's Dana. You just saw her walk by. Yeah. She's working the tap room today. I hope people take care of her. And we're taking care of her too, but yeah. So and she's going to go and take care of someone else too. Like, when she goes to do some commerce somewhere. So I think it's really telling actually about human nature and our communities and our culture here. Certainly specifically around our brewery and some of the places that we do business with and who do business with us. People are coming out. They're supporting. They're feeling some sense of connection to the suffering, if you will, of other industries and our industry. It's just beer. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. It's not the end of the world if all of a sudden my beer is not available. Like, oh no! But the reality is, there's livelihoods at stake. I've got staff members with children. I've got staff members. We have a staff member who's getting married today. And none of us are there because, we can't go. And he's there with his 8 family members that are able to stand 20 feet apart from him and his wife, his fiance. And how exciting is that? They're getting married, but how kind of bummed out must they be that they can't have everybody there with them?